Easter dinner at my parents' house in suburban Connecticut. The dining room smells like glazed ham and tension. My brother Derek sits across from me, 28 years old and smug as ever, holding court about his startup's latest funding round. When our cousin asks about my job, Derek cuts in with that condescending smile. Not everyone can handle a real career in tech, he says, loud enough for the whole table. The silence stretches. Then Grandma Helen leans forward with her wine glass. Is that why Alita's company just bought yours? You could hear a pin drop. The moment those words left Grandma's mouth, Derek's face transformed. First crimson, then a sickly pale that made the freckles across his nose stand out like paint splatters. Mom dropped her serving spoon onto the china platter with a clatter that made everyone jump. Dad stopped mid-chew, a piece of sweet potato suspended on his fork. What? Dad asked, his voice cracking slightly. I set down my own fork carefully, meeting Derek's eyes across the table. The acquisition closed 3 weeks ago, I said quietly. It's been confidential until the press release goes out Monday morning. Derek's girlfriend Chelsea looked between us, her perfectly manicured hand frozen halfway to her wine glass. My Aunt Susan whispered something to my Uncle Frank. The younger cousins, teenagers who'd been bored minutes earlier, now watched like this was the most interesting reality show they'd ever seen. You're lying, Derek said, but his voice wavered. Bright Edge Solutions, I continued, keeping my tone professional, despite my racing heart. $247 million acquisition. I was promoted to vice president specifically to oversee the integration. You'll be receiving the official paperwork tomorrow. The dining room erupted. Mom started saying something about, let's just enjoy our meal, but her voice was drowned out by Dad's rapid-fire questions about the business deal. Derek stood so abruptly, his chair scraped against the hardwood floor with a screech that set my teeth on edge. This is unbelievable, Derek said, his voice rising. You sabotaged me. You manipulated this whole thing out of jealousy. Derek, sit down, Dad said, but without much authority. No. You don't understand. Derek's hands were shaking as he pointed at me. She's been plotting this. She's always been jealous of my success. And now she's found a way to control me, to have power over me. Chelsea touched his arm. Derek, maybe we should just go. You have no idea what you've done, Derek hissed at me, leaning across the table. His water glass tipped, spilling across the white tablecloth. Nobody moved to clean it. I have documentation. About the acquisition process. About irregularities in how this deal went down. You think you're so smart, big sister, but you have no idea what I know. My stomach dropped. Documentation? What documentation? Derek, that's enough, Grandma Helen said sharply. You're making a scene at Easter dinner. A scene? Derek laughed, bitter and harsh. She just announced she bought my company like it's some kind of trophy. And I'm making a scene? He grabbed his jacket from the back of his chair. Chelsea followed, murmuring apologies to my parents. We could hear them arguing in the driveway, Chelsea's voice high and strained, Derek's low and angry. A car door slammed. Then another. The engine started, tires crunching on gravel. The silence in the dining room felt thick enough to swim through. Alita, Mom said finally, her voice tight. Did you really need to announce it like that? I didn't announce it, Mom. Grandma asked a question, and I answered honestly. You humiliated him in front of the whole family, Dad added. He humiliated himself, Grandma Helen interjected, taking a long sip of wine. That boy has needed someone to knock him down a peg since he was 12 years old. I tried to explain that the acquisition was merit-based, that our CEO Marcus Grant and the board of directors had led the negotiations. I'd advocated for it because Bright Edge had developed genuinely impressive artificial intelligence technology for data analysis. The company was worth acquiring regardless of who owned it, but I could see the doubt in my parents' faces. My aunt and uncle made excuses about needing to leave early. The cousins were suddenly very interested in their phones. Only Grandma Helen seemed unbothered, cutting her ham into precise pieces. As people started clearing plates, Grandma pulled me aside in the kitchen. She smelled like Chanel perfume and red wine, the combination oddly comforting. Your brother's always been a sore loser, she said quietly, loading dishes into the dishwasher with practiced efficiency. But watch your back, Alita. He doesn't make empty threats. I nodded, unable to find words. The knot in my stomach had grown into a full-blown ache. What documentation did Derek have? And what exactly did he mean by irregularities? I left my parents' house that evening with a container of leftover ham I didn't want and a sense of dread I couldn't shake. The Easter dinner I'd been looking forward to had turned into something else entirely. Something that felt like the beginning of a war I hadn't known I'd signed up for. Monday morning arrived with gray skies and cold rain that matched my mood. I drove into downtown Boston through traffic that crawled like molasses, my windshield wipers keeping a steady rhythm that did nothing to calm my nerves. The acquisition announcement was scheduled to go public at 9 in the morning. I arrived at our office building on Federal Street at 8:15, riding the elevator to the 23rd floor with my coffee growing cold in my hand. My office overlooked the harbor, a view I'd earned after 6 years of climbing the corporate ladder. Today, it just made me feel exposed. At 9 on the dot, our communications team sent out the press release. Within minutes, my phone started buzzing. Tech blogs picked up the story. Industry analysts posted on social media. Colleagues sent congratulatory messages through Slack and email. My inbox filled with notifications faster than I could read them. Marcus Grant stopped by my office at 9:30. Our CEO was 52, silver-haired, with the kind of calm demeanor that made you trust him instantly. "Excellent work on this deal, Alita," he said, shaking my hand. "The board is very pleased. This technology is going to transform our analytics division." "Thank you, Marcus. I'm excited to lead the integration." "You've earned this promotion. Your strategic vision made this happen." I should have felt triumphant. 6 years ago, I'd started as a junior product manager. Now I was VP of Product Strategy, overseeing a $250 million acquisition. This was everything I'd worked for. But Derek's threat from Easter dinner echoed in my head. Documentation. Irregularities. At 10:47, my phone buzzed with an email notification. The subject line made my blood run cold. Concerns regarding Bright Edge acquisition process. The sender was Derek, but he hadn't just sent it to me. He'd carbon copied Marcus, our entire board of directors, Patricia Chen, our general counsel, and half a dozen senior executives. My hands shook as I opened it. The email was professionally written, which somehow made it worse. Derek claimed that I'd had unauthorized insider access to Bright Edge's financial information before the acquisition began. He alleged that I'd used confidential data shared during family gatherings to give my company an unfair advantage in negotiations. He attached what he called evidence, time-stamped photographs of Bright Edge documents that he claimed I'd taken on my phone during Thanksgiving dinner at his apartment 6 months earlier. I stared at the attachments, my coffee turning to acid in my stomach. The documents were real. They were Bright Edge financial projections, product roadmaps, customer data. But I'd never photographed anything. I'd never taken pictures of Derek's work documents. Except, I had visited his apartment at Thanksgiving. He'd left some papers on his kitchen counter while I was there. I'd glanced at them out of curiosity, sure, but that was it. A glance. Nothing more. The photos Derek attached looked like screenshots from a phone. The metadata in the corner showed a date and time from Thanksgiving Day. And according to the file properties Derek had included, they appeared to have come from a device registered to my name. My office phone rang. Patricia's extension. "Alita, can you come to Marcus's office immediately?" The walk down the hall felt like walking to my own execution. Patricia was already there when I arrived, her expression carefully neutral. Marcus sat behind his desk, Derek's email open on his computer screen. "Sit down, Alita," he said. His voice was still calm, but something had shifted. The warmth from earlier was gone. "We need to understand what happened here," Patricia said, sitting forward in her chair. She was 45, brilliant, and notoriously thorough. "These are serious allegations." "I never took those photos," I said immediately. "This is fabricated." I did visit Derek's apartment at Thanksgiving. His papers were on the counter, and yes, I saw them. But I never photographed anything. I never used that information. I didn't even remember what I'd seen until right now. "Can you prove you didn't take the photos?" Patricia asked. "Could I? I can show you my phone, my camera roll. I don't have any pictures of documents. But these photos allegedly came from your device. The metadata shows that. Then the metadata has been manipulated. Derek is lying. Marcus rubbed his temples. Alita, you understand how this looks. You advocated strongly for this acquisition. You had access to the target company's leadership through your family connection. And now we have documentation suggesting you may have had improper access to confidential information. Documentation that Derek created, I said, hearing the desperation in my own voice. He's angry about the acquisition. He's retaliating. That may be true, Patricia said carefully. But we need to investigate this properly. I'm ordering a full forensic review of your work devices and personal phone. We need to establish a timeline and determine whether any confidential information was improperly accessed or used. Fine. Review whatever you want. I have nothing to hide. I need your phone now, Patricia said, holding out her hand. I pulled it from my pocket and handed it over, feeling naked without it. And Alita, Marcus said quietly, I'm placing you on temporary administrative leave pending the investigation. It's standard procedure in situations like this. You're suspending me? Not suspending. Administrative leave. With pay. We need to avoid any appearance of impropriety during the investigation. Marcus, I've worked here for 6 years. You know me. I do. But I also have a fiduciary duty to our shareholders and board. If there's even a possibility that this acquisition was compromised by insider information, we have to investigate thoroughly. I'm sorry, Alita, but this is necessary. Patricia stood. Security will escort you to collect your personal items. The walk back to my office with a security guard was the longest of my life. Colleagues stared from their cubicles. Some pretended not to notice. Others whispered. Everyone knew. In a tech company, gossip spread faster than any algorithm. I packed my personal photos, my coffee mug, a sweater from my desk drawer. The security guard waited by the door, patient and impersonal. Then he walked me to the elevator, walked me through the lobby, out to the parking garage. I sat in my car for 10 minutes before I could make my hands stop shaking enough to drive. My phone was gone, in Patricia's hands for forensic analysis. I used my car's Bluetooth to call Derek from my emergency backup phone, an old device I kept in my glove compartment. He answered on the third ring. Hello, what did you do? My voice came out as a hiss, Alita. I wondered when you'd call. You fabricated that evidence. You know I never took those photos. Do I? He sounded amused. Can you prove it? Why are you doing this? Just leveling the playing field, sis. You bought my company, humiliated me in front of the family, put yourself in charge of me. Did you think I was going to just accept that? The acquisition was business. It had nothing to do with you personally. Everything has to do with me personally when it's my company. You spent your whole life competing with me. Now you finally found a way to win. Congratulations. I hope it was worth it. Derek, you're destroying my career over your ego. Prove the photos are fake. Good luck with that. The metadata looks pretty convincing, doesn't it? He laughed. Enjoy your administrative leave. He hung up. I sat in my car in the parking garage, rain drumming on the roof, and realized I was in serious trouble. Derek had planned this. He'd created fake evidence that was sophisticated enough to require forensic analysis to disprove. He'd timed his email perfectly, right after the acquisition announcement went public. He'd played this like a chess master, while I'd been stumbling around thinking we were just having a family dispute. My career, my reputation, everything I'd built was suddenly balanced on a knife's edge. And my own brother was the one holding the blade. That evening, my mother called. I answered on my backup phone, still sitting in my apartment where I'd been since returning from the office. I hadn't bothered to turn on the lights. The spring sun was setting, painting my living room in shades of orange and shadow. Alita, we need to talk about what you did to your brother. Not how are you. Not we heard what happened. Just immediate accusation. What I did to him, Mom. You humiliated him at Easter. And now he's telling us you're making accusations at work, trying to undermine him further. How could you be so competitive? He's your brother. I took a breath, trying to stay calm. Did Derek tell you he sent an email to my CEO and board of directors accusing me of corporate espionage? Did he mention he fabricated evidence to make it look like I stole confidential information? He said, you've been harassing him, that you're so jealous of his success that you're trying to destroy his reputation. I'm on administrative leave, Mom. They took my phone. They're investigating me for something I didn't do. Derek created false evidence and is using it to sabotage my career. Oh, Alita. Her voice dripped with disappointment. You've always been so competitive with Derek. Ever since you were children, he gets something good, and you can't stand it. Now you've found a way to have power over him through your company, and you're using it. That's not what's happening. Your father and I raised you better than this. Family should support each other, not tear each other down. I could hear my dad in the background, saying something I couldn't make out. Your father wants to talk to you, Mom said. Dad got on the line. Alita, honey, maybe you should just apologize. Smooth this over. Family is more important than business. Apologize for what, Dad? I haven't done anything wrong. Derek is really upset. He's talking about leaving the company entirely, giving up on the acquisition. That would look bad for everyone. Maybe if you just tell him you're sorry for how things went down at Easter, he'd drop this whole thing. He fabricated evidence against me. He's trying to destroy my career. And you want me to apologize to him? I want you to be the bigger person. You're older. You've always been more mature. Just fix this. Something broke inside me then. Dad, I'm the victim here. Derek is lying. He's manipulating everyone, including you and Mom. And instead of believing me, your daughter who's never lied to you, you're taking his side. We're not taking sides, Dad said, but his tone said otherwise. We just want peace in the family. Then you should be telling Derek to stop lying. Mom got back on the phone. Alita, until you can approach this situation more rationally, I think we need some space. You're clearly too emotional to have a productive conversation. She hung up. I sat in the dark, phone in my lap, and cried for the first time since this started. My own parents didn't believe me. They thought I was the problem. Derek had turned them against me so thoroughly that they couldn't even see what he was doing. The next 3 days were a special kind of torture. My company's IT forensics team had my phone and laptop. I was stuck at home on administrative leave, cut off from work email, unable to check on projects or talk to my team. The silence was deafening. I hired a lawyer. His name was Gerald Blackwell, 58 years old, with a reputation for handling complex corporate disputes. His retainer alone was $5,000. I paid it with my savings account and tried not to think about what would happen if this dragged on. Gerald listened to my story in his office downtown, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. Here's the situation, he said when I finished. Even if you're completely innocent, which I believe you are, this kind of allegation can stain your reputation permanently. Tech is a small world. Word spreads. Right now, there are people in your industry who've heard about this and are wondering if there's truth to it. But there's not. I know. But perception matters as much as truth sometimes. We need to not only prove you're innocent, but also establish that your brother deliberately fabricated evidence. That's harder. How much harder? Metadata can be manipulated, but it takes expertise to prove how it was done. We'll need our own forensic analyst. That gets expensive quickly. How expensive? Could be $20,000, $30,000 before this is over. Maybe more if he fights back with legal action of his own. I felt sick. I didn't have that kind of money just sitting around. While I waited in limbo, Derek launched his media campaign. I found out from my best friend Lauren, who worked in venture capital and kept her finger on the pulse of tech industry news. She called me on day 4 of my administrative leave. Alita, have you seen Tech Pulse today? Tech Pulse was a popular tech blog, widely read in our industry. No, why? Derek gave them an interview. You need to read it. I pulled it up on my laptop. The headline made my hands go cold. Startup founder speaks out. When family ties complicate big tech acquisitions. The article was carefully worded, probably vetted by Derek's own lawyer. He never directly accused me of anything actionable. Instead, he played the victim perfectly. He talked about how hard it was to see his company, his baby, acquired by a firm where his sister worked. He spoke about feeling powerless in the negotiations. He mentioned concerns about fairness and transparency in the acquisition process. He called for more oversight in deals where personal relationships might create conflicts of interest. He never said I did anything wrong. He just implied it heavily enough that readers filled in the blanks themselves. The comment section was brutal. Hundreds of people supporting the underdog, the small startup founder getting crushed by big corporate interests. Nobody knew I was on administrative leave. Nobody knew Derek had fabricated evidence. They just saw what Derek wanted them to see, a sympathetic victim standing up to power. The article got shared thousands of times on social media. My name was in it. My company's name. Anyone who searched for me would find it. This is a nightmare, I told Lauren. I know. But listen, I found out something else. Something important. What? Derek approached 3 different VC firms in the last 2 months. Before the acquisition closed. Before Easter dinner even happened. I sat up straighter. Why would he do that? He was shopping around for alternative acquisition offers. Trying to find someone else to buy BrightEdge. All 3 firms passed. They didn't think his technology was valuable enough on its own to justify what he was asking. So Derek knew the acquisition was happening before Easter dinner. He absolutely knew. Which means he orchestrated that whole confrontation. He wanted it to be public. He wanted your family to witness it. He was setting up his revenge narrative from the beginning. Can you prove this? Can you get documentation from the VC firms? I can try. I know people at 2 of them. But Alita, this gets complicated. VCs don't like getting involved in messy situations. They might not want to go on record. Try anyway, please. Lauren promised she would. But even as I hung up, I knew this information, while valuable, might not be enough. So Derek had shopped around for other buyers. That didn't prove he'd fabricated the photos. It just showed he was strategic and manipulative. Neither of which was illegal. That night, I drove to my parents' house in Connecticut. I didn't call ahead. I just showed up, knowing Derek would probably be there for dinner, like he was every Monday night. Their tradition since he started his company, a standing dinner date to stay connected as a family. Sure enough, Derek's Tesla was in the driveway when I arrived at 6:30. I let myself in through the side door. Voices came from the dining room. I walked in to find Derek, Mom, and Dad around the table. Pasta and salad spread between them. Wine glasses. Candles. Cozy and domestic and completely excluding me. They all looked up when I entered. Derek's expression shifted from surprise to calculated concern. Alita, Mom said. We weren't expecting you. I know. I needed to talk to all of you. Together. This isn't a good time, Dad said. Derek's here for family dinner. I'm family too, aren't I? Derek set down his fork. Alita, if you're here to cause another scene like at Easter, maybe you should leave. I'm here to tell you the truth. Derek knew about the acquisition before Easter. He shopped BrightEdge to 3 different VC firms trying to get a better offer. He orchestrated that entire confrontation because he was angry his company wasn't worth what he thought it was. That's absurd, Derek said smoothly. I had no idea about the acquisition until you announced it. I was blindsided. Lauren and VC confirmed it. You approached firms in February and March. The acquisition closed in mid-March. You knew. Mom stood up. Alita, this is enough. You can't keep making accusations every time things don't go your way. I'm telling you the truth. Derek planned this. He created fake evidence. He's been manipulating all of you. Derek stood too, his face a perfect mask of hurt and confusion. I don't know what you want from me, Alita. I'm the one whose company got bought. I'm the one dealing with the stress of integration and transition. And now you're showing up at family dinner making wild accusations. This is harassment. Harassment? You sent an email to my CEO accusing me of corporate espionage. I raised legitimate concerns about the acquisition process. That's my right as a stakeholder. Based on fabricated evidence, you keep saying that, but you haven't proven it. He had me there. The forensic investigation was still ongoing. I didn't have proof yet. Dad stepped between us. Both of you need to stop. This has gone too far. Alita, I think you should go home. When you're ready to have a calm, adult conversation, we can talk. You're choosing him, I said, looking at both my parents. He's lying to you, and you're choosing to believe him over me. We're not choosing anyone, Mom said, but her hand was on Derek's shoulder, protective. We just want this fighting to end. It'll end when Derek stops lying. Get out, Mom said. Her voice was cold, final. I mean it, Alita. Leave. I left. Drove home with tears blurring my vision, the road lights streaking past like comets. My family had picked sides, and I wasn't on the winning team. The next day, I got an email from Patricia. The subject line read, Investigation Update. My hands shook as I opened it. The forensic analysis was complete on my devices. The results were inconclusive. They couldn't definitively prove the photos came from my phone, but they couldn't rule it out either. The metadata was sophisticated enough that determining its authenticity would require even deeper analysis, possibly involving external experts and subpoenas for phone carrier records. Given the inconclusive findings, the company had made a decision. I could return to work, but I'd be reassigned, removed from the BrightEdge integration project to avoid any appearance of impropriety. My title would change from vice president to senior director. 30% pay cut, smaller team, less visibility. We believe this is the best path forward for everyone involved, Patricia's email concluded. I wasn't fired, but I was demoted, humiliated, and removed from the biggest project of my career, the project I'd helped create, all because my brother had lied convincingly enough that my own company couldn't fully prove his lie. I called Gerald. They're demoting me. Can they do that legally? They're calling it a reassignment. Technically legal if it's part of an internal investigation. You could fight it, file a wrongful termination claim, or hostile work environment. That would take months, years, maybe. And it would guarantee I'd never work in tech again. Who hires someone suing their last employer? Gerald was quiet. We both knew I was trapped. Accept the demotion or lose everything, fighting it with no guarantee of winning. I'll take the reassignment, I said. But we keep investigating Derek. I want proof of what he did. That'll cost money, Alita. I know. I'll figure it out. I hung up and sat in my apartment, staring at the walls. Derek had won this round. He damaged my career, isolated me from my family, and walked away clean. And we were just getting started. 2 weeks later, I returned to the office. Walking back into the building on Federal Street felt like walking into enemy territory. I'd been given a smaller office on the 20th floor, 3 floors down from where I used to work. The view was worse. The space was half the size. A physical manifestation of my diminished status. My new team consisted of 4 people, instead of the 15 I'd managed before. They were good people, talented, but the work was different. Less strategic, more operational. I'd gone from shaping the company's future to maintaining its present. In meetings, I noticed the shift immediately. People who used to seek my opinion now barely glanced my way. My former peers avoided me in the halls or offered sympathetic smiles that felt like pity. The whispers followed me everywhere. Everyone knew about the investigation. Everyone had formed their own opinion about what had really happened. Derek, meanwhile, was thriving. He'd been positioned as a key integration consultant for BrightEdge, reporting to my replacement, a man named Justin Holloway. Justin was 42, ambitious, and knew enough to the company that he didn't know the full backstory. Derek had befriended him quickly, playing the role of wounded party with expert precision. In the first meeting where I saw them together, Derek acted like I didn't exist. He presented ideas about the integration timeline, spoke about preserving BrightEdge's culture, and positioned himself as the voice of the acquired team. Justin ate it up. He'd found someone on the inside who could help him navigate the complex merger, and that someone happened to be my brother. Derek raises a good point, Justin said multiple times during that meeting. Derek has concerns about the strategic direction. Derek suggested we reconsider the timeline. Every time he said it, I felt my years of work being systematically dismantled. I'd researched the acquisition for months, built the business case, sold it to the board. Now Derek was reframing the entire narrative with Justin as his ally. After the meeting, I tried to pull Justin aside. Can we talk about the integration strategy? I have some context that might be helpful. Justin smiled politely, the kind of smile you give someone you're trying to avoid. I've got back-to-back meetings today, Alita. Send me an email with your thoughts. I did. He never responded. My personal life was collapsing in parallel with my professional one. Trevor, my boyfriend of 2 years, had grown increasingly distant. He worked in tech too, at a smaller firm doing data security. The rumors about me had reached his company. People asked him about it, made jokes, implied things. We'd moved in together 8 months earlier, a lovely apartment in Cambridge, with exposed brick and tall windows. We'd talked about engagement, about long-term plans. Now he could barely look at me. One night in late April, we sat in our living room after another silent dinner. The tension was thick enough to cut. This is becoming a lot, Alita. Trevor said finally. What is? This whole situation with your brother, the investigation, the demotion. It's affecting me too. Affecting you how? People at work ask me about it. My boss made a comment yesterday about complicated family situations. I'm being associated with this mess. It's not a mess I created. Derek lied about me. I know. Or, I believe you. But it doesn't matter what's true if everyone thinks something else. Perception is reality in this industry. So what are you saying? He rubbed his face, looking exhausted. I think we should take a break. Just until things settle down. Give each other some space. You're breaking up with me because my brother is making me look bad? I'm suggesting we take a break, because this situation is putting pressure on both of us. No, it's putting pressure on me. You're just uncomfortable being associated with it. That's not fair, isn't it? I'm the one who got demoted. I'm the one whose family won't talk to her. I'm the one being whispered about in every meeting. And instead of supporting me, you're bailing. I can't fix this for you, Alita. I'm not asking you to fix it. I'm asking you to believe me and stand by me. I do believe you. But I also need to protect myself. We broke up that night. Trevor moved out over the next week, taking his furniture, his books, his presents. I found a smaller apartment in Somerville. A one-bedroom that cost more than my share of our place had but was all I could afford on my reduced salary. The moving process was lonely and mechanical, boxing up a life I'd thought would last. The financial pressure mounted daily. Gerald's bills had climbed past $15,000. My rent had gone up. My salary had gone down 30%. I'd had to start putting groceries on credit cards, watching my debt climb. Every day felt like choosing between investigating Derek and keeping myself afloat. I couldn't ask my parents for help. They'd made their position clear. At my mom's birthday party in early May, which I attended out of obligation, Derek was there with Chelsea. They were looking at houses, he announced proudly. Mom and Dad were helping with the down payment. $20,000 toward a place in Newton, a suburb with excellent schools, planning for future kids. Nobody mentioned that I was struggling to make rent. Then, in mid-May, everything got worse. Justin announced a reorganization of the integration teams. In a company-wide email, he outlined the new structure. Derek would lead the AI development pod, the crown jewel of BrightEdge's technology, the exact division I'd identified as the most valuable part of the acquisition. My former direct reports would now work under Derek. I read the email 3 times, unable to process it. Derek was getting my job. Not just my project, but my actual team. The people I'd hired, mentored, developed, they'd now report to my brother. That afternoon, I ran into Derek in the break room. I'd been avoiding him at the office, taking stairs instead of elevators when I saw him, eating lunch at my desk. But this time, there was no escape. He was making coffee at the machine. I needed water from the cooler. He saw me and smiled. Not a friendly smile, a victor's smile. Alita, good to see you. Derek. Did you see the reorganization announcement? Pretty exciting. The AI pod has huge potential. I filled my water bottle, hands steady through sheer will. I wanted you to hear this from me, Derek continued, his voice dropping to something almost intimate, like we were sharing a secret. Chelsea and I are looking at houses. Found a beautiful place in Newton. 4 bedrooms, finished basement, great yard. Mom and Dad are helping us with the down payment. Good for you. Funny how things work out, isn't it? 6 months ago, I was worried about the acquisition, thought it might be the end of my career. But actually, it's been amazing. New opportunities, better compensation, real leadership responsibility. He poured cream into his coffee, stirring slowly. How are things going for you? I heard about your reassignment. I'm fine. Good, good. I'd hate to think you were struggling. After all, you're my sister. Family should support each other. The mockery in his voice was barely concealed. Hey, maybe we should get dinner sometime. Talk about the integration. Share insights. Justin really values my input on strategic decisions. Something in me snapped. You fabricated evidence against me. You destroyed my career on purpose. You turned our parents against me. And now you're gloating about it. That's a serious accusation, Derek said, his voice going cold. Be careful what you say at work, Alita. HR takes harassment seriously. Harassment? I'm the one who's doing my job, leading my team. If you're unhappy with your current situation, maybe you should look inward. Ask yourself why things aren't going well. Take some responsibility. He walked out, leaving me standing by the water cooler, shaking with rage and helplessness. That night, I sat in my new apartment, surrounded by half-unpacked boxes. My savings account was nearly empty. My credit card debt was climbing. My family wasn't speaking to me. My boyfriend was gone. My career was in ruins. And Derek was living in my old life, wearing it like a trophy. I'd hit rock bottom, or so I thought. But the next morning, I woke up to an email from HR. Derek had filed a formal complaint against me. The subject line read, "Workplace Harassment Complaint. Derek Patterson, v. Alita Patterson." He claimed I'd been harassing him at work, following him, confronting him in common areas. The break room conversation yesterday was cited as an example, but in his version, I'd cornered him and made threatening statements. He'd attached a recording of our conversation, except it was edited. My words were there, but his provocations were removed. It sounded like I'd attacked him, unprovoked. He also claimed I'd sent him threatening text messages, attached screenshots of messages that I'd never sent, but that appeared to come from my number. More fabricated evidence. HR scheduled a meeting for that afternoon. I called Gerald in a panic. "How much is this going to cost to defend?" I asked. "Alita, you need to think about whether you can afford to keep fighting this. What's the alternative? Let Derek win? The alternative is cutting your losses, finding a new job, starting over somewhere Derek can't reach you. I can't just run away. Sometimes, retreat is the smartest strategy. But I couldn't retreat. Not yet. Not without at least trying to prove the truth. I maxed out another credit card to pay Gerald's next bill. $25,000 in debt now, and climbing. The HR investigation was scheduled to take 2 weeks. During that time I was placed on unpaid leave. Unpaid this time. No salary coming in. Bills piling up. I started looking for part-time work just to stay afloat. Applied to consulting gigs. Picked up freelance project management work. Anything to keep from drowning completely. My parents sent me an email. A joint email. Like I was a distant relative they needed to update. "Until you address your behavior and get professional help, we need distance. Derek has shown us the harassment complaint. We're concerned about your mental state. Family therapy would be beneficial. We love you, but we can't enable this behavior." They thought I was crazy. They thought I was the problem. And they were supporting Derek financially while I struggled to pay rent. Grandma Helen was in Florida, unreachable. My extended family had heard Derek's version of events through my parents. Nobody called to check on me. Nobody asked for my side. I was completely alone. On a Tuesday evening in late May, sitting in my apartment eating ramen because it was cheap, my phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. "Hello? Alita Patterson? My name is Priya Mehta. I worked at Bright Edge under your brother. I saw the news about the acquisition and the articles. I need to talk to you about Derek. He's not who everyone thinks he is." I sat up straighter. "What do you mean? I can't talk about this over the phone. Can we meet? Tomorrow? I have information you need to see." "What kind of information?" "The kind that proves Derek's been lying about a lot more than just you." I met Priya Mehta the next morning at a coffee shop in Cambridge, a small place with mismatched furniture and strong espresso. She was 31, with sharp eyes and an engineer's directness. She arrived with a laptop bag and a flash drive, setting both on the table between us like evidence at a trial. "I should have come forward sooner," she said, after ordering a latte. "But I was afraid. Derek has a way of destroying people who cross him." "Tell me everything." Priya took a breath. "I was a senior engineer at Bright Edge for 3 years. I specialized in machine learning algorithms. The AI technology that made your company want to acquire us? I wrote most of it. Me and 2 other engineers, Marcus Chen and Julia Walters. But Derek is listed as the inventor on the patents." "Exactly. That's the problem." She opened her laptop and pulled up files. Code repositories with timestamps. Git commit logs showing who wrote which parts of the system. Email threads discussing technical approaches. Performance reviews where Priya, Marcus, and Julia had outlined their contributions. "Derek was the CEO, but he didn't write code," Priya explained. "He managed the business side, raised money, handled clients, did sales. That's fine. That's his job. But about 8 months before the acquisition talks started, he began systematically removing our names from documentation. How? He had admin access to everything. He went into the patent applications and replaced our names with his. He rewrote the company's technical documentation to minimize our roles. He told investors and potential acquirers that he was the technical founder and chief architect. We were just staff engineers, according to him. Why didn't you stop him? We tried. I confronted him about the patent applications. He told me it was standard practice for the CEO to be listed as inventor. He said it was better for fundraising, better for the company's valuation. He promised we'd be compensated fairly when the company was acquired. She laughed bitterly. We believed him. What happened? The acquisition closed. We got standard staff retention bonuses. Decent, but nothing like what we deserved if the patents had our names on them. Meanwhile, Derek got millions. The founder's payout, except he didn't found the technology. We did. Can you prove this? I have everything. She gestured to the flash drive. Original code commits with timestamps, emails showing our technical discussions, messages where Derek explicitly asked us to build specific features, proving he didn't design them himself. Performance reviews where he acknowledged our work before he started erasing us. I picked up the flash drive, feeling its weight. Why are you giving this to me? Because I saw that Tech Pulse interview. I saw him playing the victim, acting like he's this honest entrepreneur getting crushed by big tech. Then I heard rumors about what he was doing to you. The harassment allegations, the fabricated evidence. I recognized his playbook. It's the same thing he did to us. He stole your work and then pretended you didn't exist. And when we complained, he made us look like we were bitter employees who couldn't handle authority. He's good at it, Alita. He's very good at playing the victim while destroying people. Why did you wait so long? Priya's expression hardened. I left Bright Edge 2 months before the acquisition closed. The environment was toxic. Derek was volatile, manipulative. I couldn't stay, but that meant I lost my retention bonus. I've been job hunting, dealing with my own career damage. It took me a while to realize I needed to speak up, even if it cost me. Has it cost you? I don't know yet. I'm risking a lawsuit from Derek if I go public. But watching him do the same thing to his sister that he did to us made me realize I couldn't stay silent. Some things are more important than protecting yourself. I looked at the flash drive again. This proves he stole credit for your work. But it doesn't prove he fabricated the evidence against me. No. But it establishes a pattern. It shows Derek is willing to lie, manipulate documentation, and destroy people who threaten him. That's not nothing. She was right. This was a weapon, even if it wasn't the weapon I needed most. I need to think about how to use this, I said. Going public could hurt the acquisition, make my company look bad for buying a company where the CEO committed fraud. That's your call, but you should know, Marcus and Julia would testify too. We've talked about it. We're all willing to come forward if you need us. Even though it could cost you professionally, we're already paying a professional cost. Derek's lies are following us. When recruiters look at Bright Edge, they see Derek as the technical genius. We're just background noise. The truth needs to come out, one way or another. I thanked Priya and left the coffee shop with the flash drive burning a hole in my pocket. I had evidence now. Proof that Derek was a liar and a thief. But using it felt like detonating a nuclear bomb. The fallout would hit everyone. I called Gerald from my car. Are you prepared for nuclear war? He asked after I explained what Priya had given me. I don't have a choice. Derek's winning on every front. If you go public with this, several things will happen. First, Derek will counter-sue. Defamation, probably. He'll claim you're fabricating evidence out of revenge. Second, your company will be furious. This makes the acquisition look bad. They paid $247 million for technology they thought Derek created. If he stole it, that's a fraud case. But it also means you advocated for an acquisition based on false premises. I didn't know the premises were false. Doesn't matter. You'll be associated with the mess. Third, this will get media attention. Lots of it. Your family will be in the spotlight. Your parents will have to choose sides publicly. Are you ready for that? I don't know. But I can't keep letting Derek destroy me. Then we need to be smart about this. We gather more evidence. Talk to Marcus and Julia. Build an airtight case. Then we present it to your company first. Give them a chance to handle it internally. If they don't, we go external. How long will that take? Weeks. Maybe months. I'm on unpaid leave, Gerald. I can't afford months. You can't afford to lose either. Over the next week, I worked with Priya to document everything. We interviewed Marcus Chen, who was still working at the merged company, miserable under Derek's leadership. We talked to Julia Walters, who'd moved to a startup in San Francisco and was willing to fly back to testify if needed. We compiled code repositories, emails, patent filings. The evidence was overwhelming. But then Derek made his move. Justin sent a company-wide email announcing Derek's promotion. Vice President of Engineering, the position I'd held before my demotion. The email praised Derek's leadership during the integration, his technical vision, his ability to unite teams across the merger. Derek has shown exceptional skill in bringing together the best of both companies, Justin wrote. His promotion reflects our confidence in his ability to lead our technology division into the future. I read the email in my apartment, unpaid leave stretching into its second week. Derek had my job, my title, my team, my career, and he was being celebrated for it. My phone rang. It was Chelsea, Derek's girlfriend. Alita, I need to talk to you. About what? About Derek. About everything. Her voice was shaking. He told me you were unstable, that you were making things up, that you were jealous of him. I believed him. But things he's been saying don't add up. What kind of things? He told me the acquisition was a surprise. But I found emails from February where he was talking to other companies about selling BrightEdge. He knew it was coming. I know. He told me you harassed him at the office. But I heard the recording he submitted. It's edited. I know because I work in audio production. I can hear the cuts. Can you prove that? Maybe. I have software that can detect editing patterns. But Alita, there's more. I think he's been stealing money from the company. My heart stopped. What? I saw documents at his apartment, financial transfers to an LLC I didn't recognize. When I asked about it, he got really defensive, said it was business stuff I wouldn't understand. But I do understand. I work in finance. Those transactions looked wrong. Do you still have access to those documents? No, but I remember the LLC name. Crimson Holdings. I looked it up. Derek is the registered agent. Crimson Holdings, a shell company. I told Chelsea to send me everything she could remember. She did, that same night. Details about the transactions, dates, amounts. It wasn't complete, but it was a lead. I called Priya back. Can you access old BrightEdge financial records? Some of them. What are you looking for? Payments to a company called Crimson Holdings. It took Priya 3 days, but she found it. During the acquisition, Derek had funneled nearly $200,000 from BrightEdge into Crimson Holdings, disguised as consulting fees for integration support. Except Crimson Holdings was just Derek. He'd paid himself $200,000 of the acquisition money. This is embezzlement, Priya said. This is fraud. This is criminal, I added. Gerald agreed. With this evidence, we can go to the authorities. But, Alita, you need to understand what this means. Criminal charges against your brother. Your parents will never forgive you. They've already chosen not to forgive me for things I didn't do. Maybe it's time to give them something real to judge me for. Are you sure? I thought about the past months. The demotion, the isolation, the financial devastation, the way Derek had smiled in the break room, gloating about taking my life piece by piece. I thought about Priya, Marcus, and Julia, whose work Derek had stolen. I thought about Chelsea, who'd finally seen through him, I'm sure. But before we could move forward, Derek struck one more time. Marcus, my CEO, called me directly. Alita, we need you to come in tomorrow. Derek has made an offer to settle this situation. Settle what? All of it. The investigations, the conflicts, everything. He's proposing that you resign with a severance package. 6 months' salary. Positive reference. We all move forward. He wants me to quit. He's offering a peaceful resolution. Given everything that's happened, the board thinks it might be best for everyone. Marcus, I have evidence that Derek committed fraud. Patent fraud, embezzlement, fabricated harassment charges. I'm bringing it to the board tomorrow. Silence. On the line. Evidence? Marcus said finally. Substantial evidence. Multiple witnesses. Financial records. I'm requesting an emergency board meeting. Alita, are you absolutely certain about this? I've never been more certain of anything. Then schedule the meeting. But Alita, if you're wrong, if this is somehow fabricated, you'll lose everything. Your career in tech will be over. I understand. I'll see you tomorrow. I hung up and sat in my apartment, surrounded by boxes I still hadn't fully unpacked. Tomorrow would be the moment of truth. I'd present everything to the board. They'd investigate. Derek would be exposed. Or I'd be destroyed completely. There was no middle ground left. The emergency board meeting was scheduled for 10 in the morning. I arrived at the office at 9, accompanied by Gerald, Priya, Marcus Chen, and Julia Walters. We carried laptops, flash drives, printed documentation. Gerald had prepared a presentation that would take 90 minutes to deliver. Patricia, the general counsel, met us in the lobby. Her expression was unreadable. The board is assembled in the main conference room, she said. Derek has been informed and will be joining us. My stomach dropped. Derek's going to be in the meeting? He has a right to respond to allegations. We rode the elevator to the top floor in silence. The conference room overlooked Boston Harbor, floor-to-ceiling windows showing gray water and distant islands. The board members were already seated around the long table, Marcus at the head, 5 other directors including the chairman, several executives. And Derek, sitting near Marcus, wearing a suit, looking calm. He saw me and smiled. Just slightly. Just enough. Patricia opened the meeting. We're here to address allegations brought by Alita Patterson regarding Derek Patterson's conduct. Alita, you have the floor. Gerald stood. Thank you. What we're about to present represents several months of investigation into systematic fraud committed by Derek Patterson. We have evidence of 3 categories of misconduct: patent fraud, embezzlement, and fabrication of evidence. He pulled up the first slide. Code repositories, timestamps, Priya's work on the AI algorithms. Derek Patterson claimed to be the technical inventor of BrightEdge's core technology, Gerald continued. This claim formed the basis of his compensation package in the acquisition. However, the technology was actually developed by 3 engineers, Priya Mehta, Marcus Chen, and Julia Walters. Derek systematically removed their names from patents and documentation. Priya stood and walked through the technical evidence. She showed original code commits, emails, design documents. The board members leaned forward, examining her laptop screen. Derek interrupted. This is absurd. I was the CEO. I managed the technical team. It's standard practice for the company leadership to hold patents. Not when they didn't invent the technology, Gerald said. Miss Mehta, can you explain the specific algorithms you developed? Priya went into detail. Technical detail that Derek couldn't possibly follow if he hadn't written the code himself. The board members asked questions. Derek tried to answer, fumbling through vague responses about team collaboration and strategic vision. It was obvious he didn't understand his own company's technology. Then we moved to the embezzlement evidence. Gerald pulled up financial records. During the acquisition process, Derek Patterson created a shell company called Crimson Holdings. He funneled $197,000 from BrightEdge to this company, disguised as consulting fees. Crimson Holdings has no employees, no business operations. It's simply Derek Patterson paying himself acquisition money. He showed bank records, LLC registration documents, transaction histories. Derek's face had gone pale. Those were legitimate consulting arrangements. We hired external advisors during the integration. Except you are the external advisor, Gerald said. You paid yourself. Patricia was taking notes furiously. The board members exchanged glances. Then we got to the fabricated evidence. Derek Patterson accused Alita of taking photos of confidential documents, Gerald said. He provided metadata suggesting these photos came from her phone. However, forensic analysis shows the metadata was manipulated. He showed the technical breakdown. How the timestamps didn't match phone carrier records. How the file properties had been altered. How Chelsea, Derek's own girlfriend, had identified editing in the harassment recording. Chelsea had provided a sworn statement though she hadn't come to the meeting. In it, she described finding evidence of Derek's deception and feeling manipulated herself. Derek Patterson has systematically lied to this company, to his family, and to anyone who threatened to expose him, Gerald concluded. We're requesting a full internal investigation and consideration of criminal charges for fraud and embezzlement. The room was silent when he finished. Derek stood. His hands were shaking. This is a conspiracy. My sister is trying to destroy me because she's jealous. These people, he gestured at Priya and the others, are disgruntled former employees. This is coordinated character assassination. Then explain the bank records, Patricia said quietly. Explain Crimson Holdings. I already did. Consulting fees. For a company that doesn't exist and has no one but you, I can explain everything if you give me time. We're giving you time now, Marcus said. His voice was cold. Explain. Derek tried. He talked about integration costs and advisory fees and complex financial arrangements. But the more he talked, the less sense he made. The evidence was too clear. The documentation too thorough. Finally, confronted with the bank records showing the transfer from Bright Edge to Crimson Holdings, and then immediately to his personal account, Derek broke. Fine, he said. I took the money, but I earned it. I built that company. Those engineers worked for me. I deserved that compensation. By committing fraud? The board chairman asked. By being smart. Everyone in Silicon Valley plays these games. No, Marcus said, standing. Everyone doesn't. You lied to us. You lied about your contributions. You committed embezzlement. And you tried to frame your own sister for misconduct to cover your tracks. She was trying to control me, to take my company. She advocated for an acquisition based on technology you claimed to have invented. Technology you stole credit for. You defrauded this company of millions of dollars. Security was called. Derek was escorted from the building while still protesting, still making threats about lawsuits and exposing corporate secrets. His voice echoed down the hallway until the elevator doors closed. The board went into executive session. Gerald, Priya, Marcus, Julia, and I waited in a smaller conference room. Nobody spoke. We just sat there, exhausted. 2 hours later, Patricia came in. The board has decided to terminate Derek immediately, she said. We're launching a criminal investigation for embezzlement and fraud. The company will cooperate fully with law enforcement. We're also correcting the patent filings to properly credit Miss Mehta, Mr. Chen, and Miss Walters. What about Alita? Gerald asked. The board owes Alita a formal apology. She's being reinstated to her position as vice president. Her compensation will be restored with back pay. And we're offering an additional equity package and bonus for the distress she endured. I should have felt relief, but I just felt tired. There's one more thing, Patricia said. This is going to become public. Derek's misconduct, the criminal investigation, all of it. It will be a media story. Are you prepared for that? Do I have a choice? Not really. But we'll handle PR carefully. Try to protect everyone involved as much as possible. The story broke 2 days later. Someone leaked it to TechPulse, Derek's favorite outlet. But this time, the story wasn't what he wanted. Tech VP arrested for embezzlement and patent fraud ran the headline. The article detailed everything: the stolen credit, the shell company, the fabricated evidence against me. It went viral. Thousands of shares. Industry blogs picked it up. Business News covered it. My inbox flooded with messages from former colleagues apologizing, from industry contacts offering support, from journalists requesting interviews. My phone rang constantly. I ignored most calls. But when my mother's number appeared, I answered. Alita. Her voice was strained. We need to talk. Do we? Your brother has been arrested. The police came to the house. It's all over the news. I know. Did you do this? Did you turn him in? I presented evidence of his crimes to my company. They involved law enforcement. So yes, I did this. She was silent for a long moment. How could you? He's your brother. He committed fraud, Mom. He stole from people. He tried to destroy my career with lies. What was I supposed to do? You were supposed to protect your family. He wasn't protecting me. Why do I have to protect him? Because that's what families do. No, Mom. That's what enablers do. Families tell each other the truth. They hold each other accountable. They don't let each other hurt people and then cover it up. Your father and I raised you better than this. You raised me to have integrity. I'm showing it. Derek's the one who forgot the values you taught us. She hung up. Dad sent a text an hour later. You've destroyed our family. I hope you're happy. I wasn't happy, but I wasn't sorry either. Grandma Helen called from Florida that evening. I heard what happened. Are you okay? I don't know. I won, but it doesn't feel like winning. Of course not. Winning against family never does, but sometimes it's necessary. Your brother needed to face consequences. I'm proud of you for standing up. Mom and Dad hate me. They'll come around. Or they won't. Either way, you did the right thing. That's all that matters. Derek's legal situation unfolded over the following weeks. His lawyer negotiated a plea deal. Derek would repay the embezzled funds plus damages. He'd avoid jail time but get 5 years probation. He had to publicly admit to the fraud in a court filing. His career in tech was over. No company would hire him after this. Chelsea broke up with him, called me to apologize for believing his lies for so long. The house they'd been planning to buy fell through. My parents stopped offering financial help once they understood the extent of Derek's crimes. At work, I was restored to my position. Given an apology from Marcus personally, Priya was hired as a senior principal engineer, given co-credit on the patents she'd actually invented. Marcus Chen and Julia Walters received compensation packages acknowledging their contributions. My team welcomed me back. Projects I'd worked on moved forward. The BrightEdge integration, now properly credited and managed, became successful. But the cost was real. My relationship with my parents was fractured, maybe permanently. Family gatherings became awkward negotiations about who would attend. Extended family took sides. The Patterson name carried weight in the tech industry now, but not the kind anyone wanted. I'd won, but the victory tasted like ash. The legal consequences played out over the summer. Derek's criminal case was resolved by August. He paid back the embezzled funds, received probation, and disappeared from the tech industry entirely. I heard through extended family that he'd taken a job in project management at a construction company in New Hampshire. Far from tech, far from Boston, far from me. At work, the board issued a formal apology. Not just verbally, but in writing. They acknowledged their failure to properly investigate Derek's initial accusations. They admitted they'd been too quick to doubt me and too slow to see his manipulation. The apology was posted internally and included in company communications about the incident. My title was restored, Vice President of Product Strategy, but they did more than just give me back what I'd lost. The compensation package was substantial. Full back pay for the months I'd been demoted, a performance bonus that reflected what I should have received, and stock options that vested immediately, acknowledging the value I'd brought to the company through the acquisition. The money helped. I paid off the credit cards I'd maxed during the investigation, paid Gerald's bills, all $38,000 of them, put a chunk into savings. For the first time in months, I could breathe, without calculating whether I could afford groceries. Marcus called me into his office in early September. The harbor outside his window was brilliant blue, boats cutting white lines across the water. I want to personally apologize, he said. Not just as your CEO, but as someone who should have known better. I've worked with you for 6 years. I should have trusted you. You had evidence that looked convincing. I had a responsibility to investigate thoroughly. We didn't. We let Derek manipulate us because he was good at playing victim. That's on us. I appreciate you saying that. The board wants to give you additional authority. We're expanding your role to include oversight of all product strategy and development. You'd be leading the division Derek was supposed to lead, but with the credit and compensation you actually deserve. It was a promotion, a significant one. But it also meant I'd be cleaning up Derek's messes for months. I'll do it, I said. But I need to hire my own team, people I trust. Done. Priya's already on board. Bring in whoever else you need. Over the next month, I rebuilt my team. Brought in talented people who'd been overlooked. Created a culture where credit went to those who actually did the work. The integration of BrightEdge's technology moved forward smoothly. Finally, now that the person who'd lied about creating it was gone. The media attention was intense, but eventually faded. Tech Pulse ran correction stories, profiling me and the engineers who'd been wronged. I was invited to speak at conferences about ethics in tech acquisitions, about due diligence, about the importance of verifying claims even from trusted sources. My professional reputation wasn't just restored, it was enhanced. People in the industry reached out with job offers, headhunters called weekly. Boards of directors wanted me as an advisor. I'd become known not just as a successful executive, but as someone who'd stood up to fraud at personal cost. But the family situation remained broken. Mom and Dad eventually reached out, 6 weeks after Derek's sentencing. They invited me to dinner at their house in Connecticut. No Derek, just the three of us. I drove up on a Saturday evening in mid-September. The leaves were just starting to turn, hints of red and gold among the green. Their house looked the same, comfortable, familiar, a place that had once felt like home. Dinner was awkward. We made small talk about weather, about work in general terms, about nothing that mattered. Finally, over coffee, Dad spoke. "We owe you an apology, Alita. We should have listened to you," Mom added. Her voice was quiet. "We should have believed you when you said Derek was lying. Why didn't you?" They exchanged glances. Dad answered, "He's younger. We've always protected him more. And I think, if we're honest, we wanted to believe his version because it was easier than accepting that our son would do something so wrong. You thought I was the problem." "We did," Mom said. "And we're sorry. We let our bias toward Derek cloud our judgment. We abandoned you when you needed us." "Yes, you did. Can you forgive us?" Dad asked. I thought about it. Really thought about it. These were my parents. They'd raised me, supported me through college, celebrated my successes. But they'd also chosen Derek over me when it mattered. They'd believed his lies. They'd called me unstable. They'd invited him to family dinners while excluding me. "I can forgive you," I said finally. "But I need you to understand that trust isn't automatic. It has to be rebuilt, and that takes time." "We understand," Mom said. "And I need boundaries. I'm not interested in having Derek in my life right now. Maybe not ever. If you want a relationship with me, it can't include trying to force family reconciliation with him." "We respect that," Dad said. We talked for another hour. It wasn't a perfect healing. The relationship between us had changed fundamentally. But it was a start. A tentative bridge being built back across the divide Derek had created. I never responded to Derek's one email. The "I'm sorry" he'd sent after his sentencing felt hollow. Sorry he got caught maybe. Sorry for what he'd done. I doubted it. Grandma Helen invited me to spend Christmas with her in Florida. "Just the two of us," she said. "No drama, no family politics, just good food and honest conversation." I flew down in late December. Her condo overlooked the ocean, all white furniture and bright Florida light. We spent a week together, talking about everything. About Derek's manipulations that went back to childhood. About family dynamics I'd never noticed. About her own experiences standing up to family members who'd wronged her. "You were always the strong one," she told me one evening, watching the sunset from her balcony. "Derek resented that from the time he was 12. You were smarter, more accomplished, more honest. He couldn't compete on merit, so he learned to compete through manipulation. I just wanted him to succeed too. Some people can't handle others' success. They see it as diminishment of their own. Derek was like that. Your victories felt like his defeats. Do you think he'll ever change? I don't know. But that's his journey, not yours. You've done your part. You told the truth. You held him accountable. What he does with that is up to him." I went back to Boston feeling lighter. Not healed completely, but healing. By spring, nearly a year after that Easter dinner that started everything, things had settled into a new normal. I'd been promoted again, to senior vice president, the youngest woman at that level in the company's history. The product launch we'd worked on, using the integrated BrightEdge technology, was a major success. Industry analysts praised the innovation. Customers loved it. Revenue exceeded projections. The team threw a celebration at a restaurant downtown. Priya gave a speech about collaboration and integrity. Marcus thanked everyone for their work. I looked around the room at the people we'd brought together, the culture we'd built, and felt genuine pride. Later that week, an invitation arrived in the mail. Derek's wedding. He and Chelsea had apparently reconciled and were getting married in New Hampshire in June. A small ceremony, the invitation said. Family and close friends. I looked at it for a long time. Then I checked the box marked regretfully declines and mailed it back. Instead, I booked a trip to Iceland. Solo travel, something I'd always wanted to do, but never prioritized. I flew out in late May, rented a car, and spent 10 days driving around the island. Waterfalls, and glaciers, and black sand beaches. Long summer days where the sun barely set. One afternoon I stood at Gullfoss waterfall, feeling the mist on my face, watching thousands of gallons of water pour over ancient rocks. The power of it was humbling, the beauty was overwhelming. I thought about the past year, the pain I'd endured, the loneliness, the financial devastation, the way my family had turned against me, the way Derek had smiled while destroying my career piece by piece. But I'd survived. More than survived. I'd fought back and won, not by playing Derek's games, but by refusing to compromise my integrity, by telling the truth even when it cost me everything. I'd learned that standing up for yourself has a price. Sometimes that price is steep, sometimes it costs relationships, security, peace. But the alternative is worse. The alternative is living as a smaller version of yourself, accepting lies, enabling harm because confrontation is uncomfortable. My brother had taught me something valuable, though not what he intended. He taught me that family loyalty doesn't mean protecting people from consequences. It means caring enough to hold them accountable. It means choosing truth over comfort. And he'd taught me about my own strength. I'd thought losing my family, my relationship, my career, would destroy me. Instead, it had stripped away everything that wasn't essential, leaving only what was real. I was still standing, still whole, stronger actually for having survived the fire. The best revenge, I realized, wasn't making Derek suffer. It was becoming unbreakable. It was building a life where his approval or acceptance didn't matter. It was succeeding on my own terms, with my own integrity intact. I smiled, watching the waterfall, feeling the cold Icelandic wind on my face. The sun broke through the clouds, painting rainbows in the mist. I'd won. Not because Derek had been punished, though he had. Not because I'd gotten my job back, though I had. I'd won because I'd refused to let him define my worth. I'd chosen truth over family peace. I'd stood alone when everyone doubted me. And I'd emerged on the other side with my integrity intact. That was victory. Real victory. The kind that lasts. I took a photo of the waterfall, not for social media, just for myself. A reminder of this moment, of surviving, of thriving, of learning that sometimes you have to walk through fire to understand how strong you really are. Then I got back in my rental car and drove toward the next destination. Windows down, music playing, the endless Icelandic summer light stretching out before me like a promise. The road ahead was mine to choose, and I was finally, completely free. Now, I want to ask you something. Have you ever had to stand up to someone in your own family? Someone who was lying or manipulating others, and you knew speaking up would cost you relationships? How did you handle it? Share your story in the comments below. I'd love to hear about your experience. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel for more real-life stories about overcoming betrayal and finding strength. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message today, someone who's struggling to stand up for themselves against family pressure, please share this video with them. Your support helps these stories reach people who need them most. Thank you for listening to my story. Whatever you're facing today, remember this: your integrity is worth more than anyone's approval. Stand your ground. Tell your truth. You're stronger than you think. Take care of yourself out there.